I was very shaky and scared because I just quit law school. My parents were furious at me. I didn't know what I was doing. And I needed to rely on someone else's story and their belief at the time. And that was what I did. I was able to find a lot of hope and possibility and strength from other people's stories.
For so long, we live in the socially constructed narrative that only the most talented can have extraordinary creative career. And for those of us who are not the most talented, we better just get our head down and hustle. But what if every one of us can have an extraordinary creative career? And the way to get there is not just erase who we are and what we want in aimless hustle, but rather the exact opposite. And that's exactly what we explore here on the Everyday Talent Podcast. Hello, and welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Betty. I'm your fellow creative and also a coach for creators. Today, we're going to tackle one of the most common pain points that creators have, whether it's at the beginning of their journey or as they expand and develop multifaceted identity, social media. Well, if you have been listening for the podcast for a while, you know that like a few episodes back, I actually share explicitly my journey on this topic as I was building my creative business, encompassing consulting, coaching, and filmmaking, and running it for the first time for full time in the past a year and a half now. Wow. And in sharing my journey, I realized that this topic does deserve a little bit more elaboration because time and time again in conversations with creators, they tell me that, well, I want to show up with my authentic self identity and also stories on my social media. I want to post a little bit more than photos, nice photos of what I do, but rather also tell people my style, where I come from, why I do what I do, and also my new adventure. And if I'm expanding beyond what I usually known for, I also want to be able to do that without feeling that people are going to judge me or that people are going to get confused. I get that. I completely had all of those thoughts at the beginning when I was trying out this idea of like, wow, I can really help creators by coaching them. And let me tell you, at the time, I had so much fear that my filmmaker friends or friends from the nonprofit space where I do consulting would get confused and would judge me that, wow, here she goes again, going to do another thing that doesn't have like longevity. Looking back, of course, now I feel like, wow, I've gone so far from that Betty in 2021. But by no means I want to dismiss the process and say that that's easy or say that like I just knew how to do social media. No, I actually had to consciously go hire help and seek support because I knew this was a very uncomfortable space for me. So, what better to have a conversation on this topic than to invite the person that exactly supported me at the time that I need, Cheryl Lau. Cheryl Lau is a side hustle coach, and she is also the podcast host of the podcast the Side Hustle Club. She believes in helping people to develop their thought leadership so that they can build careers that they are proud of. And in this episode, I'm so excited for you to hear Cheryl's insights on how to build your unique thought leadership. And mind you, everybody have their unique thought leadership online and also show up in every facet of their business and practice. Because Cheryl also usually coaches like other coaches and service providers, I also workshop with her how to apply some of the principles to creators and artists. And I actually provided her some scenarios to respond to live on this podcast. So you're really in for a treat. Without further ado, here's the conversation with Cheryl. All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Everyday Talent Podcast. Today on the podcast, I have someone really special here who helped me at the beginning of my coaching business journey. Welcome, Cheryl.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Betty. What an honor it is to be here. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you can come on and share like how we work together, share your story, and also share some of your expertise with my audience who is very interested in learning about thought leadership and how to show up on social media. So, but before that, Cheryl, why don't you tell a little bit about what you do and how did you come to do what you do?
Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Cheryl Lau. I'm a coach and I specifically help side hustlers to grow their online business by helping them to become known for their unique thought leadership and also to learn the skill of soft launching and doing all of this on top of a full time job or other life priorities. So that's kind of a glimpse of the work that I do with my clients. I'm also the host of the Side Hustle Club podcast. In terms of my story of how I do the work that I do today. Um, Long story short, uh, I've quit arguably two traditional slash prestigious career paths in my journey so far. So in 2018, I quit law school because I just had this deep inner knowing that the legal field, it just wasn't the career path for me. It wasn't really the career for me to do my best work, to be of service, or to just wasn't really how I wanted to make money in this world. So that was the first career that I quit. And I quit not quite sure knowing what I wanted to do at the time. So I pursued multiple gigs and side jobs just to kind of explore. And eventually I arrived at research. And also I started my online coaching business. So I did both of those things for a few years and eventually pursued my PhD in 2020. But then, as many of you may know, COVID also happened in 2020. And Unfortunately, my family and my now husband and I were separated for almost 2 years during the COVID years because I was in Hong Kong and Hong Kong was very strict with all of the restrictions about the pandemic. So ultimately, in 2022, I made the decision to quit my PhD and move to Singapore to be with my husband. And now I am a full time coach, so I'm full time in my business now. So today, what I do now is I help coaches and entrepreneurs to build their business and really do work that they're proud of and ultimately make money and an impact in a way that they're proud of and ultimately also build a career as a coach or as a business owner that they're proud of. So that is a nutshell of how I arrived at where I am today.
There's so much to unpack there. You kind of like told us your career story in a very short form, but like we heard a couple of major things there. And I remember in like you and I first met in 2020, middle of 2021. That was when I still had a full-time job. I was making film. I also had kind of this budding feeling that, oh, I'm going to start a coaching practice. And I found you online. And I have to say, immediately, what drew me to you and your content was your storytelling. Like, like at that time, you were still doing your PhD program, and you quitted law school, like, and you started like coaching other side hustlers, and that your consistent storytelling of your personal story, but also like what you believe in, really like kind of make me follow your content for a while, and then eventually book a call with you. And so I want to kind of like ask you, how did you hone in that like coaching other people about developing their story and developing their thought leadership became kind of your focus or your niche, and how did that relate to your personal journey?
Okay. So I would say that I think there's several layers here. I think the first thing is I have been deeply impacted by other people's stories and other people's ideas and thought leadership. As a consumer, as a pretty active consumer of content, I would say I've been very deeply impacted by other people's stories. And actually, the reason why I started my own online business was because when I first quit law school, I just happened to stumble across another coach on Instagram. It was purely by chance. I just found them on my Instagram feed, discovery feed. And they were sharing a very vulnerable, very raw story of their decision to quit their job. And I just appreciated the thought process that they shared. It wasn't like I quit my job, let's celebrate me kind of post, but it was a very, you could feel the sincerity in the post. And that's when I started just probing around on the internet and consuming content and listening from other people's stories on YouTube and on Instagram. And I think it was during this season of my life when I needed to lean on someone else's story because I was very shaky and scared because I just quit law school. My parents were furious at me. I didn't know what I was doing. And I needed to rely on someone else's story and their belief at the time. And that was what I did. I was able to find a lot of hope and possibility and strength from other people's stories. So I think it was that particular instance that helped me realize stories matter, and everyone's stories, no matter how big or how small or medium sized, whatever you perceive your story, there is there is value because your story has helped you. So why can't it help someone else? That's the way I see storytelling now. Now, in terms of how it's shaped how I help my clients, one thing that I noticed was that uh, after I started my business in the earlier stages, maybe for around a year or a year and a half, on sales calls with potential clients, I would get the objection, not the objection, but I would get people coming to my sales call and they would say, "Thanks so much for the call. I'm actually going to hop on
Mhm.
some other discovery calls with other coaches. So I'll get back to you." So I was like, why does this keep happening? Like everyone that I hop on a sales call with keeps on saying that they're interviewing other coaches. And
Mm,
then I thought, maybe it's because I'm not known for something. I'm not
mm,
the coach. People are not coming to the call knowing that I'm the coach for them. So I became very curious about that. And I thought, you know what? I want to be known for something. And I started to think about this concept of thought leadership. And I'm thinking, how can I lean on this concept and apply it to my own business? How can I also be known for my own thoughts? And then I decided, okay, I'm going to start doubling down on sharing my story, my own viewpoints, and really taking a conscientious effort to become known for something. And
mm.
then soon after that, this objection actually never comes up on my sales calls anymore. Even to this day, people usually come onto the call knowing that I am the coach for them.
Wow.
So
And
that's
they
why
they
I,
know that your space, the place that you play, your focus and your like you are the coach for side hustler or
yeah.
coaches. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
people would literally repeat word for word parts of my story or repeats parts of my messaging. And they would say, I want to learn specifically these skill sets from you. So that's how I know that this has been working for my business and for that of my clients as well.
Hmm. Just what you share there, I think, like kind of uh nicely tie in the reasons why like I'm inviting you to address my audience who are creators and artists, because in working with my clients, they face that challenge of like how do they uh hone in that space to be the someone of something, especially them create content to associate with that, or show up, just like simply show up on social media to associate with that. And the second piece is what you said about that no matter how big or how small your story is, it has value and it means it's meaningful. I think that a lot of people have difficulty with that. Can you tell us a bit more about like in your experience coaching your clients, or and then in your own perspective, like how do we develop thought leadership? And also I think the word is intimidating for some people. What does it mean to have thought leadership?
Okay. So I actually, before this call, I actually looked at the definition of thought leader. And according to the Cambridge Dictionary website, a thought leader is an expert on a particular subject whose ideas and opinions influence other people, especially in business. And I think it's that word expert that's going to throw people off
Mhm.
because I think a lot of people don't necessarily see themselves as experts, even if they do have extensive experience in their respective industries or fields. They
Yeah.
It's that word, that expert word, that just carries so much connotations. And I think it makes sense why this is because throughout our entire lives, we were basically taught to believe that an expert is someone who has a lot of credentials, a lot of accomplishments. They're the top one of the top 1%.
Mhm.
And it's natural for us to not feel like we have expertise or thought leadership for that matter. So when I really had to think about what's my definition of thought leadership, I would say that a thought leader is someone who leads with their thoughts. But more specifically, I would say that a thought leader is someone who leads with the thoughts, irrespective of how much or how little external validation they're getting.
Mhm.
Um, and so, in the context of what I do with my clients, such
Mhm.
as in the coaching industry or in the online entrepreneurship space, I would argue that a thought leader is someone who will show up and they're committed to sharing their thoughts, even if it's dead silence from their audience, or even if there's someone in their audience
Mm.
challenging their viewpoints. A thought leader will continue to stand firm in what
Mm.
they believe in, no matter what. And I think how I arrived at this viewpoint or definition is because from my own background in research and academia, and also just drawing inspiration from a lot of like philosophers and a lot of
Mhm.
uh, a- astronomers and uh, philosophers and all the people throughout history,
Mhm.
right?
Mm.
Um, a classic example I like to cite is Nicholas Copernicus from the, like, was it the 15th or 16th century? A long, long, long time
I
ago.
did not see that coming, but that's fun. Keep
Yeah,
going. Yeah.
because Nicholas Copernicus, he was because at that time people believed that the world revolved around the Earth. But
Mm.
Copernicus was the first one who really challenged that notion and said, no, actually, it revolves around the sun. And obviously, there was a lot of clashes because of
Yeah. Yeah.
um, the religious leaders at the time, and there was
Mhm.
just a lot of consequences as a result of
Mhm.
him standing up for what he found through his own experiments and his own research, given the tools he had at the time, right? So then, like, Copernicus was basically the first modern scientist to propose this quote unquote heliocentric theory, even though
Mhm.
everyone was going rooting for the geocentric theory.
Mhm.
So basically, throughout his entire life, Copernicus's life, and even to his death, people did not accept it, even
Mhm.
after his death, until there was evidence afterwards from later
Mhm.
astronomers and scientists that finally found even more evidence to support his theory. And today we attribute the heliocentric theory to Copernicus. So then when I thought about it that way, I was like, oh, this is what a thought leader is. They are willing to stand for and show up for what they believe in, even when people are challenging them. And I know that's a pretty
Right.
extreme example. And I'm not saying that our thoughts and ideas are not going to be accepted during our lifetime.
Mhm.
There's likely very likely that people will agree with our standpoints and want to
Mhm.
hear what we have to say. But that's what I extracted from a lot of
Mhm.
examples throughout history is that there are moments of silence and there's moments of you want to back down from what you're saying, but a thought leader, they will continue showing up for what they believe in. So yeah, that's how I would
I love that because what you're saying is that don't wait for like a arena or like a space to open up for you. A thought leader is someone who goes out and carve out their own arena, even when
yeah.
there's nobody in the audience yet.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think to your question about like I believe you asked like what's the first step you could take or like how do you
Mm.
start honing in or tapping into that thought leadership piece. I believe that was the question earlier.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think the simple question I can throw back into anyone's court is what do you want to be known for? I think that's
Mhm.
a simple question to think about and then start building a body of work to really support that and showcase your ever expanding thought leadership and be
Mhm.
relentless in sharing your body of work with the world. And be willing for it to be challenged sometimes too and let your own beliefs be challenged so that you can really strengthen your own stance on what is it that you believe in and be willing for people to ask questions and to ask for clarification. But more importantly, just be willing to keep sharing your body work and know that there's no need to wait for the external validation. Learn to validate yourself first.
Mm. How do you validate yourself in the process? You not you per
Mm,
se, but you, your clients, and then
mm,
perhaps I can like share from my thoughts because I work with you as well. Yeah.
yeah. Validation. When I think about validation, I think about the question of who are you no matter what the external circumstances are. So, like, I am
Mm.
Cheryl Lau. I am and it's like working on the belief that no, I have something that's of value. I have something that's worth sharing, even if even if no one cares, even if people
Mhm.
challenge me. It's who are you despite no matter despite blank, despite
Mhm.
this circumstance or despite this limiting belief. Even if I'm terrified of sharing blah blah blah, I still believe it. And I think it's getting clear on what is permanent, what's not transient.
Mm.
And I think
Mhm.
that's how you come to the validation part is recognizing, oh, this is what doesn't change no matter what. And arriving at that place first. And I
Mm-hmm.
think then it becomes easier to quiet the chatter in your head.
Mm-hmm. I remember first, so I like to share with the audience. Remember, I first like joined Cheryl's like group coaching program for coaches, and I think like the people in the group were like more beginning in the journey, which I was as well. And one of the things that I really appreciated you did was like nudging us or pushing us, like no matter where our thoughts or how developed they are, just like create something. And I think in interesting way it ties to what you just said, because yes, there's some like that permanence of who we are, but you also don't learn that from like just sitting around. You
Yeah.
sort of learn that in sharing in conversations, and like you learn that by like putting something on the internet, and then you make friends and you realize, wow, those people like other people are like this about this, and I'm actually like this, and that's why I'm unique. And so I really kind of appreciated that at the very outset, you're like, don't worry. And the other thing that I really appreciate you keep reminding us was that your thoughts or like your content will compound. That it's not that you put one post here, it has like this impact, and then another post that has that impact, but rather you build kind of your body of work over time.
Yeah, that's such a good point that Betty brought up. Um, it's like people put so much pressure on like that one post or one podcast episode, but it's like no, it's like why don't we think about it in terms of 10 podcast episodes or like 10 Instagram posts together, the collective impact of those, because people just put so much pressure on one post.
Hmm.
Well, one post can't do everything you want it to do. Maybe you need 10 of them to do what you want it to do.
Hmm. Yeah.
Just put it out
Yes,
there, just get
we
it out there,
definitely
help some
put
people.
that to all of our clients who we talked about this before. Yes, that one post that you're making is, if we can just like think about it, spread it out, that you have agreed, you have different platforms, that the pressure would be so much lower on ourselves as well. Yeah.
Yeah, just get it out there, you got people to help. Go, go, go.
Yeah. So let's like, so to the audience, like Cheryl and I actually jump on a pre-call in preparation of this call, because of course, like I know that Cheryl usually helps like other coaches and service providers, whereas like the audience of this podcast are creators, creative freelancers, self-employed creators, and like artists too. So we can talk about how that like her expertise transfer to the audience of this podcast. And I have some scenario questions here that I rush up with Cheryl. And are you ready, Cheryl?
Yes, let's do it.
So this is very valuable because we get your thoughts live, uh, with specific scenarios that I synthesize from my work with clients and heard what I heard from creatives. The first scenario I would say, if like he's like hard to my heart, because I think I was like that when I first came to you. A lot of our audience are multi-passionate creators, and or they are like known for something, and they are in transition to be want to know for something else. For instance, when I started working with you, I think I had no, I think I knew that I had a personal account. People knew me from that account as a filmmaker. And if you remember the very first call we had, I said to you, I do not want to appear to other film fellows that I'm like selling them a service now. So I had this deep fear that people suddenly know me as a coach, but that's also what I want, because I was trying to test this business idea. And I think that actually a lot of like multi orientation, if we call it, creatives have that struggle. For example, if they were let's say a photographer before, and now they want to be more of like a broad-based artist, like there's this fear that people suddenly can't adjust to their new identity, and I want to validate that I felt that as well. What do you say to that when people are kind of transforming their identity or building a new link in their practice?
Yeah, so just to clarify, is the specific thoughts that you think people will have is like, are people going to be confused or are they judging me? Like, could you tease apart like the
Mhm.
specific thoughts that they might be having?
Well, if I tap into my like 2021 Betty thoughts, uh definitely that people, I was scared that people would get confused. I think I got, oh yes, now I remember, that's the fear, that the judgment that, oh, she's not like committed to her filmmaking path anymore, or that like she's uh just a hobbyist of everything. She's starting something new again. Here she goes. I had this like thought. Nobody actually said it to me, by the way. They were just in my head.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So to the first thought of like maybe people will be confused, I think my brain goes to, will they be confused? Will people, because people are smart,
Yeah.
people are intelligent human beings. So I'm
Hmm.
like, if they have questions, I would like to think that they will just ask me to clarify. That's where I like to think
Yeah.
that thought instead. So
Hmm.
that's what I would say to the first point. It's like, will people really be confused? Like, they might just be surprised, but will they be confused? I think there's a
Hmm.
difference between the two. And I think also that's where the body work comes into play. It's like if people are confused, no worries. Just continue building a body work to answer those
Hmm.
unspoken questions that people have. So in my mind, it's like very simple. It's like no worries. If people are confused, we would answer their confused questions with our
Right.
body of work, with content, or just tell them directly through a private message. No problem. So uh,
Hmm.
that's how I would look at the first thought.
Hmm.
For the second thought of like not wanting to like people to doubt our identity or like our how serious we are about something, I would actually ask for anyone who might be going through this scenario. I would ask the question of, are you proud of what you're doing? Are you
Hmm.
proud of all the different ventures you're doing?
Hmm.
Because and I'm going to loop this back to the original topic of today, which is thought leadership, because the way I view thought leaders is they're willing to go first, and
Hmm.
and because of that, they're willing to take risk,
Hmm.
quote unquote risk for what they believe in, and so the thing I want to ask you is, are you willing to take that risk, and are you willing to
Hmm.
take responsibility for it? And this sounds so serious and so
Hmm.
heavy, but it's really not. It's like it's really just like a question of, do you like your reasons for what you're doing? Are you willing
Hmm.
to go first and introduce what you're doing and show that you're proud of what you're doing, right? And
Hmm.
all of these questions really just anchors back to your values. Yeah, so I would say that, are you proud of what you do? Because if you are, what can people really say that will make you
Hmm.
waver in your values? That's what I would
Hmm.
ask whoever might be thinking this.
Well, what I'm getting from this and learning from this is that like the doubts and the confusion, like it's like, are you clear yourself first? Like, cause it seems like it's a self-induced. It's the inner voice that is telling us all that, right? So,
Yeah.
and then if you don't have your back in your mind, then no, like other people like are not expected to have your back. They're not expected to be clear either. And also, like yes, like I can tell from my personal experience, audience are like not that easy to be confused. I always like to say is like, think about like your favorite movie, like they don't try to explain everything like in the movie. If that it does that, it's pretty terrible movie, because the audience are really smart. Usually we can put things together.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Hmm.
as Betty said, know yourself first, and
Yeah.
then it'll quiet the noise in your mind.
I also want to share a bit of like when we started working out. I've working together, working out our brain. Um, you gave me the option of like, well, why don't you just start a new account? And I really appreciated it because I knew that like eventually I've still promoted my people. Eventually I've overcome this thought of this fear or doubt, but there was option to make us feel safer, because there is a level of like, yes, we understand that we should be proud of our work, we should be like clear who we are, but there also are options to like kind of like safely like push our, just step by step nudge our discomfort.
Yeah, it's that phrase like 0 to 100, right? It's
Mm,
like we don't have to go from 0 to 100 right now. We can always go
mm,
from 0 to 2, 0 to 10. And what would that look like for you? And I guess in your case, starting a new account was the 0 to 10 that we needed to do in order to get from 10 to like 90 and now 100.
mhm. Totally, yeah. Next scenario, This is so fun. I should do this with all the guests. Put scenarios in front of them. um, so some of our guests, some of our audience are artists who, I would say that there's one thought that, like myself included, that we are trained to believe our work speaks for ourselves. And I don't know whether, like, our training to be humble mixed into that, but especially if we are like people who make something, makers of something, like uh, I make film, I make video, someone else makes like photography. We are always like taught, I don't know where we're taught though, that our work speaks for ourselves, right? Because I think there's a certain aspect of like that the artwork is more important than the artist. And so for that, like I see that we, like if we have that thought, usually have a lot of fear in terms of like when you say, show up with your story, like tell people, your audience, your story, because that would be like vulnerable to share a piece of ourselves rather than our artwork. What do you say to people who are struggling with that?
Mm, okay. I would say that what you put in your, so the way I'm picturing this in my head right now, I'm picturing two things. I'm picturing one person of a body of work and another person of their body of work. But person one, their body of work is primarily their art, for example. And
Right.
person two is their art and perhaps their story, their
Mm-hmm.
personality, their viewpoints on whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm seeing, but both of these people have a body of work. So
Yes.
that's why in my mind, I'm like, I wouldn't really for I would argue there's no right or wrong way of building your body of work. For some people, if you really are leaning towards option A, no
Mm-hmm.
problem. If you're leaning towards option B, no problem. But for anyone who might be in the option B category, where you are feeling like, no, like in addition to my like actual
Mm-hmm.
creations, there is something else like that's in my mind I want to share, I think that's where we can talk more. But I think
Mm.
to answer the main question, I don't necessarily think there's a right or wrong way of building your body of work. I think both are valid. For some people, really, they want their work to speak for themselves, so to speak, and like
Mm-hmm.
have their art be the primary focus. Good for them. But however, if you are in the option B category, let's talk more.
Right. Yeah. I hear you, because basically, if someone has this question that, like, oh, I want to tell more of my story, but I also want to hide behind my artwork, that usually means they want to go towards option B, that they want to like show up and have like more of their person, like their story told. But it's about like, but if they don't have that thought or that urge, it's totally okay that they don't choose that path as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. So like if they are kind of like showing up, like people who choose the option B, just like asking a follow-up question, like before on their grid is all like their work, nothing about themselves. Like how do they get over the first hump in terms of like showing up and say, now I'm going to add some personality to it. I'm going to tell a little bit about like my backstory. What's your usual advice to clients who are kind of encountering the first time showing up as their authentic self in story?
Okay. So there are so when I work with my clients, I have this framework now.
Hmm.
There's four types of content. So maybe I can give an overview of those four types of content.
Yes,
And
that
I
would be
think
great. Hmm.
then the audience, for anyone who identifies that they're in this situation where they want to step out of their comfort zone, so to speak, more, you can consider which of these four categories of content you want to try out first. So I'll just give you some options and the audience can choose like which option they want to dabble in. So the first category is, what are your quote unquote quote brand stories? And really, a brand story, it could be related to your work, your craft, or it could be completely unrelated to your work or craft. But the main purpose of your brand story is to demonstrate your values. For me, for example, quitting law school in 2018 is a brand story, not because I teach people how to quit law school or I coach people to quit law school, but it's
Right.
because it's the values, the thought process that are embedded in the story that really demonstrates who I am and my character. So that's why even to this day, it's been 6 years since is it 6 years? 7 years, I think. I don't
Hmm.
know. My math is not
Wow.
that good, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's been a while. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Um, it's been like 6-ish years since I left law school. I still share this story to this day because that's how much it matters to me. First of all, this story has
Hmm.
shaped who I am today, but it also continues to be a strong uh, piece of my story that people will literally remember me for. Even to this
Hmm.
day, people will come to my sales call saying, I really resonate with your story about how your Asian parents were so mad at you when you quit law school. I really resonate with that because of I chose this career because of my Asian parents, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's
Right.
the first category of content is what are your brand stories? The second category is what are your opinions? And this could be related to your work, your craft, your field, or it could be not related at all.
Mm,
Um, and for example, one of my opinions I really believe in is that I want more people to do work that they're proud of. And that
mm,
could include starting a YouTube channel, that could include starting a side hustle, but I just want people to do work that they're proud of. And another opinion of mine that's more related to the work that I do is I want people to build their business, their side hustles in a way that lets them make time for the other parts of their life that matter to them. Because there
right.
was a time in my own business journey where I did not do it that way.
Mm,
And I could see myself burn the heck out. And I actually ended up stopping my business for 7 months because I was so burnt out. So that was
hmm.
one opinion that really matters to me. And I share it to this day as well. Um, the third category of content is how are you currently leading by example? And I think examples of these kind of content could be how you did insert thing. Like, how did you do this kind of content? It could also look like lifestyle content, or it could look like behind the scenes content. It could look like showcasing your community, showcasing your clients, really just showing how you're doing the thing. You're not just preaching, but you're not just talking the talk, but you're actually walking the walk.
Right.
Um, and the fourth type of content, I'm not sure how relevant this one is to your community, but I would
Mm,
say for my clients who are building a coaching business, uh, is what are the skills that you will teach in
mm,
your program, or
mhm,
what are your unique intellectual properties, so to speak. For
mm,
example, is there a framework that you walk your clients through
mm,
when they work with you inside your coaching program? So this one might not be as applicable to
right.
your community. But I would say for anyone who is currently in the season of your journey where you're like, I do want to try out creating something that's beyond just literally sharing my work or my craft, these might be some things you could consider.
Oh, that framework is so valuable, Cheryl. Like, I love that you break it down because people usually get like, I mean, like a lot of us have heard things like content pillars, like those buzzwords out there. But like when people kind of hone in, what is it? It's really hard for them to think about. So I really appreciate that you share that framework with our audience. Yeah. And the one thing, like, it just came to mind that I definitely learned that from you or in the time that I work with you was the power of repetition. 'Cause I think I myself definitely had that. I said, well, everybody knows that I believe in this, right? People know that I believe like not hustling really hard, right? Or like other people, like let's say some of my clients are like people know that I do this kind of like cinematography, right? People know that I do this kind of photography, right? Um, but social media is sort of a space, in my experience, and you nudge me over the time that we work too, that you sort of have to show up repeatedly because you one you have a new audience. Second, people are people. Like we forget, we don't constantly think about other people. We think more about like there's so much in our life there to think about, and repetition has a lot of power and influence. I would say in my own experience, learning from you.
Yeah, and I will also add on one more thing about the benefits of repetition is that not as you just mentioned, like not only are you uh reminding people, I guess you can say, because people's
Mhm.
attention spans are so short, but also you're reminding yourself that this matters to you. So it's also it's good
Yes.
for yourself also to remind yourself this matters.
Hmm. Yes, yes, I love that. Yeah. And which brings us to the last scenario. I also love this because I think you have a lot to say. Uh, some of our, well, not some, I think everybody could listen to this podcast, very busy people. And one, they don't feel that they have time to create consistent content. Or second, they're actually in their job. They help other people to create content, whether it's for another arts organizations or for other people's like managing other artists. And when it comes to their own content, they don't have time and space. And but they want to. How do they prioritize creating content? How do they make the time for it?
Mm, okay. I think one thing that I've observed that comes up when people tell me that content just feels so time consuming and they don't know if they can make it work for them
Mhm.
anymore because it's just so time consuming. One Instagram post, for example, is taking them, I don't know, an hour or 2 hours. Then my question to them is, why is it taking so long? And so that's my first question is, why is it taking so
Mhm.
long?
Mhm.
But then what I want to offer is that content actually doesn't have to take that long because I think it's we have the idea of how the content creation is supposed to look like and how
Mhm.
the optimal environment to create is supposed to look like, especially when it comes to social media content. I think many of us have this perception of I'm going to sit at my laptop and be very energized and be very creative, and it's going to be quiet and it's going to
Right.
be great. But then more often than not, we are not situated in the most optimal content creation environment. For example, when I
Mm.
was a side hustler, I often created content when I was literally on the bus on the way to the university. So
Ah.
what I would do is, for example, when I was recording video Instagram stories, I would record it before I left the house. I would record the videos, and then because I didn't have much data on my phone plan, I would then like caption it without my data. Like, I would just caption it on
Wow.
my phone, and then I would upload it I would save it, and I would upload it when I get to the university Wi-Fi. So I
Wow.
want to offer that example of oftentimes if this content creation is something that you do want to try, let's be willing to let go of the expectation of what the execution is supposed to look like. As long as you get your product out there, as long as you get your message out there, that's the
Mhm.
goal. But the
Mm.
execution of it may not often, especially for those of you who might be very busy and you're often on the go, it's possible that you may not often be situated in the optimal work environment. So I wanted
Mhm.
to give that particular personal example to paint the picture of you can make this work even if you're not at your laptop.
Oh, I love that because like I think it brings home that point of like there's no one way to make content and it doesn't have to be this elaborate like you sit down at a computer for hours situation. And if I add to that again from the time that we work together, uh, was that I found it really freeing knowing that I don't need to follow those rules of like time batching or like finding like extensive amount of hours to do content creation. And for me, I think like kind of you earlier in our journey, you gave me this term that, oh, Betty, you're more of an intuitive content creator. You just kind of whip out your phone and you go on story. And I was like, I love that. Yes, I am that. and and I that's what I have done. And for like I think I shared with my audience before, like I am much more better at like following my energy and creating content, and because knowing that I'm not very good at repurposing it, now I actually like outsource to a really brilliant like assistant to help me repurposing some of the content. Not that other everyone listening to this podcast have to do that, but I think over time everyone can find their way to create content in a way that's true to them and not like necessarily like so time consuming.
Yeah, that's such a good point about working with your energy levels. Some people might really thrive off of having like a content plan, like a very structured, planned out
Hmm.
content plan, while others might be more of an intuitive content creator like yourself, where they get inspired and then because they're inspired they have the energy and capacity to follow through on the execution of it. And I also, one thing I've been observing recently is that, speaking of energy levels, some people are like, go go go, rest rest rest,
Hmm.
go go go, rest rest rest, while others are like, go go go, rest rest rest, go go go, rest rest rest. And I think it's like just being very attuned to what your literal like physical energy levels are, and like not trying to like mold yourself into someone else's energy levels, so to speak.
Mm.
Because usually like for the go 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 go, I think the audience is going to be confused if they're listening to the audio version. They're like, what is she talking about? But like it's like the more like intense go and intense rest versus like more gentle, stable go
Mm,
and rest. I find that these two broad categories, there's probably other categories and styles of energy, but like oftentimes my clients who are in category one, they want to be category two, and the category two clients want to be category one, and they often like say like, oh, I wish I was more like that. But literally both sides wish they were more
yes.
like that. So like
Yeah.
don't hate on your energy style. It's still working for you, but just play with your and just play with the energy style that you got.
Mhm.
Because both people are still gonna move forward.
Well, I'm like nodding my head off because I also see this, but never kind of summarize this like you did so brilliantly there. Because I see clients that like I also live in this world that like work with different clients, and I go, do you know that like the other group actually want this, and you're like trying to like reject your natural default setting, but other people want this, and then vice versa. So just hone in who you are, even in your process, is what I'm hearing from this.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah. Um. So I want to like actually because we talk about energy, I want to bring back to something of your personal experience because earlier on you like sprinkle some really like major like hump or challenge that you overcome in your business and journey as well. That you said that at one point you were burned out and you quitted your business altogether. And I think there's a lot of like resonance in the audience as well. Burnout is a topic we talk about a lot on this podcast. So nowadays, well, first tell us like if you may share a little bit of experience of like your burnout and recovery journey. And nowadays, how do you make sure that you manage the energy in a way that is like intuitive to you, and how do you continue to find joy in your business?
Mm. So for my personal experience of burnout, this was back in 2019, just a short 5 months after I started my online coaching business. I decided to quit for 7 months. So this was all within the first year of my business. So I started in March 2019 and then I stopped as of August 2019 until March-ish of 2020. So all within the first year. Um,
Wow.
and what had happened was that in the first 5 months of my business, I was just so excited and infatuated by all of the cool possibilities of content creation, social media. You can make money on the internet. Wow, I can talk to strangers and make friends from all around the world. I was definitely very just excited, very,
Mm-hmm.
very excited and infatuated by what was possible. And because I was such a go, 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 and I didn't rest, and I was
Mm,
doing all the things. I was on Facebook, like a Facebook page, Facebook groups, doing Facebook live streams, Instagram stories, Instagram posts, LinkedIn, email, newsletter, dabbling in YouTube, started a podcast, making all these freebies, had a website, probably a few other things as well, including working with clients and my full-time job. Naturally, it got to a point where my physical body, my mental health, that was
mm,
neglected, like severely neglected. My relationship with my family, like my with my partner, because
mm-hmm.
I can share one story here.
Yeah.
My partner and I have been long distance for the entire
Mm-hmm.
duration of our dating history, and he was visiting me from Singapore one time, visiting me in Hong Kong. And then I was just so I was like on my phone recording some Instagram stories while we were hanging
Ooh,
out. And
yeah.
he's like, can you not like like
Mm.
I come all the way here to visit you and you're just gonna record Instagram stories? And then in the
Oh.
moment I was like, huh, how did I get here? And then
Mm,
also my physical body was exhausted.
mm-hmm.
My mental health, I could see it really also because I wasn't familiar with like mindset work. I wasn't really familiar with different tools that I could use mindset wise. And I also wasn't working with any coaches at that time. I
Mm,
wasn't getting support that I needed at the time. And I think just all of those variables made me so attached to the business.
right.
And I think that's why also internally it was like a roller coaster. Like if I didn't sign a client, I was like freaking out, and it was
Mm-hmm.
just terrible for my mental health. So then it got to a point where I realized this just isn't worth it anymore. It
Mm,
even if I was making some money and it was a lot of fun, it just wasn't worth the toll that it was having on my body, my mental health, my relationships, and so on. And so I decided to just shut everything down for I didn't know how long at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But then as I started to just reconnect back to my work at my 9 to 5 at the time, which was a research job, spend time with my family, spend time with my partner, uh, work on my health and mental health, I started seeing that, oh, I have the capacity for something else. And I really
Mm-hmm.
miss this. I really miss the connections I made. There was something about creating an online business, creating something that is of your own, creating something that you're proud of. I miss it. I
Right.
really missed that. And I decided, you know what? Let me try this again, but I cannot do it the way I was doing it previously. Something has to change. But I miss it. I realized I missed it. And that's why I decided to come back into the internet again.
Mm. Wow, what a powerful story. Thanks for sharing that. Like what I heard there is that like I mean the why didn't change in terms of like why you want to do a business. That's why you motivated you come back, but the how has changed. And and I think there's a lot of value of like you sharing that you started off like across all platforms trying to do everything. And I think that's like sometimes like a common trap that people go in when they're starting like content creation or be more active on it. We now suddenly have to do everything. And so tell us like how did you do it differently nowadays?
Mm.
And I think that
Yeah.
speaks your philosophy. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I first came back on the internet, I reactivated my accounts basically because I literally deleted the apps and everything. I shut everything down. Like literally, you couldn't find me on the internet, which is
Yeah.
sad because I wish I had something to show for from my 2019 days. But it's kind of hard to find those things now on the internet. But anyways, so when I came back around March 2020, for most of 2020, I only used Instagram. I only created content on Instagram.
Mm,
And then because I only did Instagram, I got really, really good and really, really fast at creating content on Instagram. I was really quick at Instagram stories. I was very prolific. I was very prolific that year on Instagram because that's all I did. And I got faster and
mhm,
faster and sharper at how I was articulating my thoughts. And the potency of my content got deeper, I guess you can say, because I was just practicing that one thing. And by October 2020, I was like, I think I have the capacity to start a podcast
mm,
because I practiced Instagram so much, I can translate my Instagram skills into podcasting.
mm,
And then naturally, when I first started my podcast, it took a long time because it's a brand new skill set. It's like talking into the microphone for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes is obviously going to take a lot
mhm.
physically, energetically at first, but then now I've been doing podcasting for 2.5 years now. It's a
Yeah.
breeze. It's
Yeah.
very, very easy. But every skill set, every content skill set, I should say, it's gonna take some time and practice for you to build up that muscle. So what I learned from 2020 and what I'm glad I did, um, is that I started with one platform first and got really, really quick and efficient at it. And then I
Mhm.
added on one more platform. And for 2021 and 2022, podcasting and Instagram were my primary platforms. Only in this year am I trying out repurposing content onto other platforms. But for a good 2 years, it was just Instagram and podcasting.
Mhm. This so I'm so grateful that you share that, and it reminds me again, like at the beginning of my journey, you told me and other people in the group how like can you get really really good at one thing first, and that just took off the pressure immediately because naturally my brain was thinking, should I be doing like linking? Should I be doing like Twitter? I can't believe I was thinking of doing Twitter. Who cares about Twitter now? And you know like and that's very common because we think in the extremes. So your journey really speaks to of volume and leads by example to your own point of like it is possible to just focus on one thing at a time. Yeah. So, Cheryl, I want to end this interview on a fun question. So, what do you do nowadays for fun and for joy? And how do you refuel your energy of running your business?
Okay. I love this question. So one thing I like to do recently, is I like to call it pen and paper time, where I literally I use a sketchbook and I take out my
Mhm.
bright colored highlighters and I'll just make mind maps. And honestly, to be very honest, literally every week is the same mind map. I'm just making the same mind map over and over and over again. But it brings me so much joy to make the same mind
That's
map.
awesome.
And it's
Yeah.
like for me, it's like an identity exercise where like I'm just like, who am I? And I'll just like write like Cheryl Lau in the middle, and I would draw like I would draw these outward bubbles of like what I want to create, who I am, what I see 3 to 5 years from now, and like honestly the same mind map every week. But like I like doing that a lot. Um,
Uh-huh.
and another thing that was a big part of my life recently was home renovations. And I learned a
Mm,
lot about interior design recently because my partner and I moved into a new place and we did do a little bit of renovations. So it was really interesting to learn about like just to look on Pinterest and look at different interior styles and be like, oh, that's my style, or oh, that's not my style. And like learning about like, I don't know, like tiles and like
mhm.
floors and like this is just a completely different arena that I don't know much about. And it was just so much fun to
Yeah.
learn about like a completely different field and a whole industry
Hmm.
as a consumer. But like, and I obviously there's so much deeper things that I don't know about. But like,
Hmm.
that was a lot of fun. It was stressful, of course. Home renovations
Hmm.
are stressful, but
Yes.
it was also very fun to see how everything is now put together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I love both of those. One like speaks to like that like you have the space and time to do like home stuff in life. Like it is possible to run a business that's not all consuming. That's great. And I love the pen and paper exercise. I might need to steal from you that once if you guys
yeah,
sit down,
yeah.
not
Often,
with the screen. Yeah.
yeah, you'd be surprised at what your brain gives you on paper. You'd be
Hmm.
surprised. Everyone, try it out.
Yeah, highly recommend. So sure, if people are more curious, but like you share so much, like, but if people want to like follow you, learn more from you, uh, potentially talk to you about working with you, how do they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Cheryl Theory. Uh, Theory is not my last name; it's just my Instagram name. So Cheryl Theory. My last name is Lau, if that matters to anyone. A fun fact about the theory is that when I was much younger, when I first made my first ever Instagram account, I actually started with Cheryl Theory because I thought I'm not going to use my full name for security reasons, but also I thought I'm going to have a theory
Oh,
one day. So that
oof!
name
Wow,
stuck around, and I had
I did
many
not know
different
that.
iterations.
Mhm.
I changed it to like different things throughout the years, but I somehow arrived back at Cheryl Theory because I still have this deep inner knowing that one day I will be
Mhm.
known for my whatever theory it is. So that's that's the
Ooh,
context.
you planted a seed with the universe way earlier. Yeah,
Yeah. You can also check out my website at cheryltheory.com or check out my podcast at the Side Hustle Club on iTunes, Spotify, or YouTube. Yes, that's where you can find
amazing.
me.
Yeah, amazing. I will also include all those links in the show notes for the audience. Thank you so much for coming on, Cheryl.
Thank you, Betty. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
I hope that you enjoyed this episode and conversation I recorded with Cheryl. And I also hope that you can apply some principle to what you do right away. And maybe do the pen and paper exercise that Cheryl encouraged you to do and map out your identity and how you want to be known on online or just in general getting clarity for yourself. If you like what you heard today, I encourage you to subscribe to our podcast for future episodes or go back to previous episodes and dive in topics of your interest. I also encourage you to leave comments if you are viewing this interview on YouTube. And also, like, you can reach out to me on Instagram and share some of your thoughts. I'm always in dialogue and listening what you need, and that will also help me to curate future episode for you to build your practice and build your career in an intentional way. I also want to let you know that this fall I'll be running a group coaching program for the first time. The Conscious Creators Group Coaching Program is going to be an intensive 3 to 4 months journey for creatives to come together, and we're going to design intentional structure for you to lead and build towards the direction you want in your creative practice so that you are not always aimlessly hustling. Check out the group coaching program with the link in the show notes, and the waitlist is open. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening today. May we all build intentionality and consciousness in our practice and in our creative process. I will see you next time.